Greetings, Commanders. So Taranis has fallen. The first of the 8 Titans is down, and this marks a truly significant milestone in the history of this game and all of humanity's efforts in the war against the Fargoids. Now, with Taranis in distress and suffering a meltdown, we're on a countdown waiting for the explosion or detonation, I think is what it's called in game, of a Titan proper that's likely to be happening tomorrow according to what we can see from the in-game galaxy map over here. They are, however, still, as you can see here, this is Titan in meltdown detonation in 17 hours. And we're definitely going to be there for the fireworks that we expect. As the war continues, however, we fully expect to apply some of the lessons that we learned during this fight to taking down the subsequent 7 Titans that are still at large. One of the things that we noticed as part of our efforts, and we noticed it purely accidentally, I may add, is that the core of the Titan actually appears to not be immune from experimental effects of weapons. I noticed that as I accidentally hit it with a concordant sequence beam, which is normally intended for wingmates in the Wing Mamba fight. But the concordant effect icon appeared on the HUD display of the core, which generally doesn't happen for interceptors and other entities which are immune to the special effects as a whole. So the question came, and this is what we're investigating now, and this is what I would like to investigate personally, but I will have to head to Inara to understand where my corrosive multi-cannon actually is, because I cannot remember for the life of me where I have stored that module. I would have said my Anaconda, but my Anaconda is configured to fight Inspire sites, so it definitely does not have a corrosive multi-cannon. So, and I have way too many ships to go through them one by one. But Inara has a convenient ship module search feature that lets you search your own modules and figure out where specific things are stored. Multi-cannon gimbaled. So as it turns out, my corrosive shell is on my advanced PA storage type 10. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to our advanced PA storage type 10 down here, swap to this ship, drop the corrosive multi-cannon from here. There it is. Corrosive shell. Is that a size 2? No, it's size 1. Oh, it's just a size 2 slot. And then, since we're going to do this little experiment effectively on our own, we don't need a concordant sequence beam on our Mamba for this experiment. And instead, we'll replace the concordant sequence beam, actually pulse laser, with the corrosive multi-cannon. Now, mind you, this experiment is not exactly the sort of like ideal one, because I'm going to just try and see if this effect applies to essentially a dead Titan core, which is not guaranteed that it's going to apply to also live core of a Titan. So we kind of need to do this test also on one of the other Titans, but currently carrier jump times are extremely long, and as a consequence, it's not all that easy to jump ships, to jump carriers around the galaxy. So this little test we'll have to do. Alright, so I think we're good to go. And off we go. Unfortunately, the glaive hyper and interdictions have been turned off, so you no longer need to go straight to silent running when you drop. You can just keep your shields on and just boost away, which makes these inter and hyperdictions a lot less annoying. In order to get away from glaives, you would have to switch to silent running, which would drop your shields, which in turn would allow you to get away, but at the price of having to regenerate your shield pretty slowly as this ship goes. Even with clean drive, the ship boosts past the velocity of Basilisk, which is 530, so interceptors are not going to catch you. I personally noticed that the chase speed of glaives is also limited if they haven't actively locked you yet, which is why the silent running trick works. When they are chasing you, as in trying to come towards you to lock you, they give chase at a high speed of 530 meters per second, which is a lot lower than their top speed during combat, which I don't think has actually ever been precisely measured, but anecdotally it's been estimated to be more than 700 meters per second, which means that pretty much no combat ship is able to get away from a glaive that has locked on you. But many builds like this one are able to get away from glaives that still have not locked from you. That being said, glaives are not a thing, so well, that's currently not a thing. So getting into Titan space should be a bit easier, at least as far as interdictions and hyperdictions are concerned. Now, while we're chatting about builds and ideas and all these crazy things that we're testing, well, let me see. Okay, this is good. A lot of people have asked about multi-cannons and Cirrus missile racks. So these are the so-called serious pre-engineered missile racks that are pre-engineered for high capacity and high rate of fire. We have less damage per shot of enhanced missile racks, enhanced anti-exceeding missile racks, but they have twice the ammo and a higher rate of fire. So net, their sustained DPS is higher and they have a lot more ammunition, which means that the overall damage per dive, if you want to call it this way, is going to be higher. The damage per dive of missile racks is also almost twice as much as that of the best multi-cannons available, which are the azimuth multi-cannons. So if you're looking to maximize not necessarily your damage per exert, but the amount of damage you can do to a core in one single individual dive, these are the most damaging weapons that you can equip. Short of guardian weapons, but obviously guardian weapons do not work in a Maelstrom, so these are the next best option. What is to be said is about these missiles is that these are actually a pre-engineered version of the old school anti-Xeno missile racks. And the old school anti-Xeno missile racks are a lot slower in terms of shot speed. They have a shot speed of 750 meters per second, which is actually very, very slow. It's very difficult to shoot anything that moves with these anti-Xeno missile racks. However, for a stationary target like the core of a Titan, that doesn't pose a problem. It does pose a problem if you're trying to get rid of glaives and scouts and other targets that may be annoying you on the way, which is why these ships that may mount these missile racks are generally flanked by fighter escorts. And if you've seen the video I posted recently about the 3 different builds, you have seen that there's a bomber version of the Crate Mark II, there's a fighter version of the Crate Mark II with multi-cannon specifically for this reason, and then there is this wing bomber Mamba that is kind of pretty dependent on operating in a wing with its concordant sequence beams. It is also dependent on fighter support for the things that it lacks. It lacks a repair limpet controller, so it cannot repair its own hull, which you would say, hey, with shields it doesn't matter, but a lot of things in the Maelstrom actually do phasing damage to your hull. Caustic generators and caustic mines do phasing damage through your shields. Glaives do phasing damage through your shields. Interceptor cannon fire does phasing damage through your shields. So it's not sufficient to just exclusively rely on shields. You also need some kind of hull protection. And this ship has a decent amount of armor with its, where is it? 1500 hull points, but still, it's not something that will run endlessly. So if you spend hours in a Maelstrom like we did today fighting Taranis, at some point you will want one of your fighter escorts to put a repair equipment controller on you. Now we're here to do a little test and see if our corrosive multi-cannon actually applies the experimental effect. Now I don't know if you can actually target the core anymore. I think you can though, which is why here I wasn't how you have bothered. And we're on the opposite side, so we'll have to go to the lower end. It's interesting that despite the Titan being in distress, it's still able to operate its maw, which is why it's an Orpheus. I can judge based on the speed. It's relatively slow, and it's caustic trail. It's the only interceptor that has that. That's a $40 million bond, 40 million credit bond if you decide to take it on, but it is not something that I'm here to do, so it's not what we're going to be doing. And you'll notice this build is designed to stay at or below 20% heat, ideally when you turn off unnecessary modules like your FMU, your cargo hatch, and your FSD, which is here, so that you don't get detected while you're operating on so-called military power. Military power being essentially not boosting like your regular thrusters. Now let's see if we can target this thing. Looks like we cannot target it anymore, which is sad, which means we cannot run our little test. All blackened out by the way now. It'll be interesting to see the fireworks tomorrow, how this goes. Now again, the carrier jump times are extreme, so I can't quite reliably get my carrier onto one of the other Titans, but I might be able to put on a fuel scoop and get this Mamba. For the sake of speed and velocity, we will just do a little fast travel back to our carrier. And you do AX, money really is not an issue, so like just rebuying rather than spending like 3 minutes or 4 minutes going back is preferable. So we'll be responding on our carrier, seeing if we can put on a fuel scoop, and seeing if we can get ourselves out to the next Titan. So regarding the question that was asked in the chat on whether the next Titan to be killed has been chosen, we're actively debating it. And as I was mentioning in our Discord, there are several commanders that are far more experienced than I am when it comes to war matters as a whole, like Commander Grimscrub and Commander Mediocre. They really know how the Fargoid war works. I'm a simple monkey. I shoot goids. I kill them. I think I'm reasonably good at killing them. As far as where to go kill them, I completely take my cue from them, as they know far better than I. And I trust their judgment. So they will figure it out, and I think they'll figure it out quickly in the next day or two. And as part of that, I'm sure it'll be published in all the relevant channels. All right, so we have a shield, and we want to keep the shield. We have a hull. We want to keep the hull. I'm trying to figuring out if there's anything I can kind of give up. I don't really need a FMU. I could put a... I don't even know if I have a size 2 fuel scoop. Do I have... Yes, I might. No, I don't. The smallest I have is a size 4. All right, then I guess we're going to go in with a very, very low hull Mamba for this little experiment, but this is what the... I could actually do something different, which is go in with a non-combat Phantom, but that would be probably a bad idea. And these are all bad ideas, but this is going to take a few jumps to get there, but it should work. I also want to check with, like, some of the commanders that were after it and see if they have chatted me. All right, car just moved over. All right. I am testing as well. See if we can compare results. So there's a few people sort of like going off to trying off this little corrosive experiment. Thank you, Commander Steve McMarrow. I will say it was really a humongous group effort. we really needed the Horde to come and go after Taranis based on the damage that needed to be done. And the Horde was actually quite responsive and showed up, so it was quite the experience today, and a bit of a cathartic moment after a year and a half of practicing for this. Finally being able to do it was a very special moment, I want to say, in this game. For the builds, you're welcome about the builds. I'm glad you found them useful. If you have any feedback about the builds themselves, I mean, these are all very new. I mean, they're, again, we spent a year, better part of a year, practicing in the Maelstrom. I mean, we were fighting in the caustic zone, relying on caustic sequence before we could even get into the core of a Maelstrom. So, and then after that, again, we were fighting and training extensively. So we have quite a bit of experience with that environment. But even then, all of this is still incredibly new as far as how the torpedoes work and how the damage mechanics of the Titan works. So any feedback on how these builds have been working for you is of incredible interest. And by all means, please write in the chat or reach out to our Discord, because we want to hear from you and we want to hear what has worked, what has not worked, any kind of lessons learned. Yes, the Horde was called, and the Horde came, and boy, did it come. Like, if you look at like how quickly progress started accelerating on the last heart, it's kind of crazy. Like, it was like, I'll tabulate some of the data about how quickly some of those hearts went down, but it's like faster than personally I thought it was gonna be by a mile. Yeah, and like honestly, you know, this is a very unforgiving environment. So like if you are new to anti-Xeno combat, you're kind of diving in on the deep end as far as Maelstrom activities are concerned. Sort of those builds are pretty reliable, I want to say. In particular, the bomber version of the crate is a reasonably self-sufficient build that is capable of doing damage and holding its own and repairing itself, and kind of all around works reasonably well. Chieftain variant. Yeah, I mean, a Chieftain, I know. A Chieftain remains the best solo combat ship as a general purpose ship. At a very, very high end of a skill level, some folks probably correctly argue that it is eclipsed by the crate. The crate is a lot harder to fly than the Chieftain. Like, the Chieftain just flies incredibly better than the crate. But if you really know what you're doing, then a boost orbiting crate with its bigger power distributor, with its bigger hard points, with its better internals, it's just a force to be reckoned with. Any tips for when you're trying to cross the Maelstrom? Yeah, well, the easiest thing is like put pips in sys. The shutdown pulse neutralizer drains your system capacitor and will protect you so long as your system capacitor is not empty. So if you put 4 pips in sys, you're essentially charging your system capacitor while it's draining it. So the amount of protection time that you have is a lot longer. You know, just try it. You'll see it's a multiple of the times that it would last if you did not have any pips in sys. So while you're kind of like still trying to figure out the exact timing, having 4 pips in sys gives you a lot of margin. And then you put 4 pips back in Eng and you boost away and you're good. The other small tip, but this one is comparatively much smaller, is the Fargoid pulse wave at the entrance of a Maelstrom will overheat you if your heat is already above a certain threshold. But if you're running cold, it will not. So if you're running on what we call military power, which is non-boosting essentially, hey Alex, if you're running on military power as in non-boosting, and you're keeping your heat at the run rate of these ships, which is 17 to 18%, you can actually go through the Fargoid pulse, and the Fargoid pulse will not push you above 100, which means you don't need to waste a heat sink or take heat damage to to pass the pulse wave. Where are we? We are here. How many jumps do we have left? Let's see. One more jump. So that's another small tip in crossing the Maelstrom barrier. Trying to think if there's anything else. Oh yeah, maybe one other small thing. Again, I'm a big fan, unless you kind of really got the hang of it, I'm a big fan of just going in on, again, what we call military power. Because staying cold also lets you avoid the mines. The mines are heat sensitive, so if you're staying cold, you need to be very close to a mine to trigger it, which practically never happens. If you're boosting, however, and you got your heat, like right now, I'm basically boosting anyway to 47% in this case. Well, at 47%, the mines can detect you from half a mile away. So you will trigger mines, and mines actually do damage that goes through shield, as I mentioned. So they're quite damaging, in particular of the, or for instance, the Mamba build, which is no repair build that relies on shields. Blew myself out because air calls. Yeah. I'm not sure which ones you mean regarding arrow effect pulses, right? If you mean the shutdown field neutralizers, or do you mean the mines? Alright, I think, by the way, we finally got ourselves into Titan space, but I don't, into the Maelstrom space, but I don't actually know where Maelstrom are. It's all the way on, oh gosh, 3,000 light seconds. This is going to be interdiction heaven. But we made ourselves our way here. Did I bring torpedoes? Tell me about torpedoes. Yes, I did. We're good. Yeah, the mines hurt a lot. I mean, you can, again, you can boost to get into a Titan, but just, again, you need to be careful if you're boosting. That's the thing, right? And you need to sink when you're going through a pulse wave, otherwise you're going to overheat. Otherwise you can, I mean, it depends also, like, if you have a single caustic sink build, and you don't want to have to synthesize caustic sinks once you're inside the Maelstrom, then you may want to boost to minimize the number of caustic sinks you use to get there. But if you have like a 2 caustic sink build like this one, then you have caustic sinks aplenty. It doesn't matter, right? You know, slow down, take your time to get through. If you waste 2 more sinks to get through, who cares? You're not gonna need to synthesize them anyway. Yeah, I think you mean the Fargoid. It's called. I'm sure you call what it's called. It's called Fargoid Pulse or Fargoid Repulsion Wave or something like that. But yes, that's what you mean. It's pretty remarkable the first time I see the Titan. I mean, I was there the day it was released, and again, it was quite the experience. It's great that they've dropped the requirements for materials for the pulse neutralizer and for the caustic sinks, by the way, because candidly, that grind, that experience was interesting, and that was the only kind of content that you could experience. Right now, it kind of doesn't really serve a purpose, and it's fantastic that we can get a much bigger player base to get involved and participate in direct strikes on Titans. So that's generally something that I think will be very well received. Well, it's not that we're not waiting 24 hours. If we're doing some little experiments, like both Shadow Draikana, who's doing it in a separate instance, and myself, are going in to see if the corrosive special effect. Oh, first of all, we're going there to see if we can manage to get there without 72 height predictions, and the answer to that is probably no. By the way, I don't know who kind of made the hypothesis that the Python Mark II, like the special feature of Python Mark II is for it to be stealth in that it doesn't get height predicted or interdicted by Fargoids. I really hope that is the case, because these interdictions are going to get so old when we're fighting Titans that are actually pretty far away, unlike Taranis. And one thing people didn't realize is Taranis is the closest Titan to the drop point from a system standpoint. So it's the fastest to get to, which is why it's one of the easiest to fight. Indra is 3,000 light seconds away, and there's another one, can't really remember which one, which is like tens, if not hundreds of thousands of light seconds away. So you're gonna spend like 15 minutes getting hyperdicted all the time just to get there before you're even able to fight. So, you know, we we would love some kind of way to resist these. Yeah, I know a lot of people are saying that something about PvP. Maybe. Again, I hope there's, if not the intrinsic property of the new Python, that there is some other way that kind of makes us increasingly resistant to Thargoid interdictions. Or maybe a narrative, like they kind of just drop Glaives, like Glaives no longer hyper or interdict you. At some point they're going to say that interceptors are also kind of like focusing on defending Titans and stop interdicting you. That would be a very welcome change as well. Yeah, so the Mamba, I mean, again, if you go to my channel, there's a video I posted, I think yesterday or some very recent time, that shows 3 builds we came up with for Titan Space Combat. The Mamba really shines in wing. Like this ship's like, I'm now flying it alone just because I'm like having fun with it, not because it's actually a good idea. The Mamba really shines in wing. If you're using a concordant sequence wing and you somehow have trained to actually tap each other on a regular basis and keep a concordant effect up, it is incredibly powerful. Like, it's super sturdy. It's like a never-ending pool of HP, and it protects you from Fargoid missile strikes, and it reasonably protects you also from the Taurus if you get caught up by the Taurus. So it's incredibly powerful, but it's a kind of like more advanced build that is harder to use. So again, here, let's say for the sake of argument, that I go in just on military power to show you what I was demonstrating earlier. I gave it a boost so I got moving, but now I will turn off, and this is important by the way on this build. You want to turn on your AFMU, you want to turn off your cargo hatch, and you want to turn off your, well, in this case, fuel scoop, because I don't need a fuel scoop, and your frameshift drive. Hopefully you don't have fuel scoop on your combat build. With that, this ship on military power drops below 20%, and I think might go even lower. The ETSI statistics for a Mamba, by the way, are imprecise. I've actually been talking to the developer of ETSI, Taledin, about it, and about how we could potentially get better statistics and data for the Mamba, noting that right now we have our hands a little occupied with something else, so it's gotten on the docket of things to do at some point when things kind of like relax a bit as far as the war is concerned. But if anybody... Oh, well, I wanted to fire my caustic sinks, but instead I fired down one of the missiles. Alright, so now see, I'm at 19%. I'm going on military power. I'm going to move my pips to Sys. And I'm just going to hold it on Sys just to show you how long you can hold the pulse neutralizer if you have 4 pips in Sys. Right, okay, I'm holding now. See how slow it charges? I'm still holding it. Right? It's still going. Still got the neutralizer effect. Now it drained and now it turned on. Well, that's a pretty long time, right? I mean, you have to get it kind of like really wrong to sort of like not work in that sense. And now basically, since there's no other pulses, I will get to the asteroids before it pulses again. Now I can boost. Now I can boost and I can get through. Also, as you notice, I did not overheat. So I did not need to waste heat sinks. And now I'm firing my next round of caustic sinks. By the way, I accidentally, I think, fired a round of heat sinks. Otherwise, I would have 1 and 5 on those caustic heat sinks. Well, Nix, there's a lot of communities. Like the Anti-Xeno Initiative, for one, is a great place to start. And if you're a beginner, it's definitely the place I would direct you to. I'll type the website here so you have it in the chat. I mean, the AXI, which we are members of, like the Xenostrike Force is part, well, not technically formally part as in a part of, but we're actively encouraging dual membership. So most, if not all, our members are also members of the Anti-Xeno Initiative. And we have a bit of a different focus, but we're very good friends. And I am an overseer in the Anti-Xeno Initiative, just as I am Alright, so this one basically just... I shouldn't be boosting now because I'm going to get detected, but I don't want to miss the chance to go on this bombing run, so I'm going for it, and I'll pop a heatsink, which hope manages to not get me not detected. I will only be able to get a few of the vents, but it's fine, since I only want to test really just the back. I'm lucky if I get 3. I'm happy if I get 2 in this case, because I was very, very late to the game. If you get a running start, this ship can easily get 6. If you fly really well, you can get 7 on a solo run. Alright, I think I got 3. I mean, you guys tell me. But I have something like this. There's some expods in here. So now the core is going to come out. And I'm going to see if the multi-cannon experimental corrosive actually shows as an icon on the core itself. I need to target it first. And it does not. That is so sad. That is so sad. Oh well. While we're at it, let's put some missile on it. And go for another little solo run. It would have been too good to be true. Like, the corrosive effect would have increased the damage of anti-xeno multi-cannons by 85%. 85. Which is why somebody probably had the presence of spirit to actually make sure that it didn't work, as it would have been a game changer for AX weapons overall, which is too bad. So now I don't think I've done enough damage for it to Taurus, so because the threat level hasn't increased enough, so it's not Taurusing. So we're gonna keep going around, and this time we'll see about like a solo bombing run. We'll see if we can get 7. I don't think we'll be able to get 7, but we'll try and getting 6 maybe. Drop my caustic sinks. Clear them out. Get my heat down. This is generally something you don't want to do with your solo. You actually don't want to aggravate the interceptor. You want to keep it on green alert, which you generally do by going to the safe spot. Actually, now it's a good place to show you the safe spot. So the safe spot is here. I'm right now I'm pointing at it. As you can see, an interceptor has actually... I've actually gotten the attention of an interceptor, which is heading my way. But typically, if you hide under this branch kind of thing, you will lose aggro of the interceptor itself. And while you're here, more or less nothing can hurt you. Like, even the Fargoin swarms. By the way, I should turn the music off. I had turned it on because somebody had said that the music had changed and it was interesting, which it is, and it has changed, but I think we had enough music and just set up. So this is a so-called safe spot. If you are here, you are safe. See if I can show you a little bit further where exactly on the Titan it is. See? This is where the Mora is. Now the vents are opening, but I don't want to be bothered by the opening vents right now. Plus I have the interceptor still kind of like waiting for me to get out of here and doing some scans, but I think it'll move away. Because again, if you're in the safe spot, interceptors will lose aggro from you. So as you can see, this guy is going away and going to and doing some other kind of patrolling thing. Now, I think this thing is in green alert. Let's see. No, it's still in some weird orange alert state, I think. You can tell from the vein colors. Like, if you leave it alone and if there's no patrol actively locked on you, after a little while, the Titan will go back to yellow alert, and after yellow alert, it will briefly stay in a yellow alert and then go down to green alert in a moment. So the reason I shoot the beam laser, someone is asking in the chat, is because it's a thermal vent beam laser. So that beam laser allows me to boost while staying cold, which is something I cannot do otherwise. I can run cold on military power. I can just go full thrust and stay under 20% heat, which is fine. But if I need to boost or if I will move around quick, boosting would actually spike me above 20% heat, so I would get detected. So I will fire my thermal vent beam on the Titan's hull, which gets me cold through the thermal vent effect, and let me boost while not being detected by hostiles where I'm out here. As you can see, it's relatively chill when you're in a safe spot. Like, you can just hang out there and kind of nothing really bothers you. However, the interceptor here still has a swarm out, which I think kind of like signal. I think it might be jumping out. If it's jumping out, might be the way of the target to go back in green state. for whatever reason, based on how the Titan AI works, so long as you have a patrol that has locked on you or detected you, it will never go back to green. You have to wait until that patrol kind of despawns or goes back into the mall or jumps to witch base or whatever it is that patrols do. Once that happens, then the interceptor is kind of like happy to go back to green. I didn't want to let it go back to green because, again, it shows like a Titan, and it's kind of like, okay, this is the sound of it going back to yellow. You can tell by the sound as well. Like, and then it's going to make another sound very shortly, typically after it goes back to yellow when it goes back to green. And it's pretty distinct sound. Right now, you can also hear in the background, if you have like your volume turned out relatively high, the sound of the vents coming open. So the vents are going to be opening in like 5 seconds or so. Now notice it went back to red instead of going back to green. That typically happens like when, and here the vents opening as I was mentioning. That typically happens when patrols do something weird. Like patrols sometimes go and scan a mine. Like I think this is what happened over here. And they'll detect a mine and scan a mine and somehow get aggravated against a mine. And that will turn the Titan into red alert, even though there's really no reason for it to be in red alert. That's just one of its own silly mines. But it happens, so now it's back in red alert. However, since we're not shooting it or ramming it or otherwise poking it, after a little while we will go back to yellow, to orange alert, and then to yellow, and then finally to green. When it goes to green, it recalls its patrols, and it will also recall its turrets. The turrets come of two types. This is a dual repeater turret, which is essentially the gun-like turret that shoots you the red kind of like laser-like shots. Pretty slow, but relatively easy to avoid in fast ships. But if you're flying a slow big ship, especially with a shield like a T-10 or an Anaconda, these things can really hurt. They're a little bit like turbo lasers on the Death Star. They're meant to repel capital ships and big ships, but they do poorly against nimble and fast fighters. On the edges of the Titan instead, let's see if I can find one. I think somewhere over here. They are missile turrets. Hello, missile turret. There you are. These are missile turrets. So these things here shoot caustic missiles. They're relatively weak, and with caustic sinks, you're more or less immune from them. But if you end up eating a lot of them, then they can be annoying. But again, if you're staying cold and not getting detected and going on a bit of a stealth run, which is what I'm doing here, again, I'm in a safe spot. This is another safe spot, which is not where I am, but I'm going around in free cam, so I have actually no idea where I am. Oh, here I am. I am here. So again, as you can see, being kind of showing you around, nothing has bothered me. Nothing is happening. It's like the Titan is in red alert, but because of like some glitchy thing that patrols are doing, not because I've done anything to it. And hopefully it will go back to orange and yellow alert and final green alert soon. The double turrets can be destroyed, absolutely. They're relatively weak. The issue with destroying those turrets is that they constantly respawn, almost like a minute later. So you destroy it, and then a minute later, it pops back up. So it kind of defeats the point of destroying it. So most often than not, if not always, you kind of just ignore it. So what will happen at 1815 is it will probably kind of explode. Detonate, I think is the word. So we'll see how that goes. Let's see what else people are asking in the chat. Night vision. So night vision is a personal preference. Some people like it. I just don't particularly use it unless I'm like fighting at spires at night, where I really kind of need to see the ground. I tend to not use night vision that much. Maybe it's a skill issue on my part. Maybe I should learn to use it. Maybe I'd fly better if I used it, but I don't, and that's how I've been doing. Now again, I'm hearing the sound of events coming open again, and one of the good thing about the safe spot, by the way, if you manage to not hit the thing like I'm doing right now, is that it's right next to a vent. So you can sort of like be ready to go the moment the vent's gonna open, which is gonna be about 5 seconds from now. So there you go. Now, if you want to get the most vents, and now see I got above 20%, see how all the turrets now firing at me? That's because I was not being careful and I let my heat go about 20%. Now I use the heat sink, and I'm gonna use another one so that I can stay under and not get hit again, because I don't have the benefit of having windmate, so I cannot actually have someone that fixes up my shields. So I gotta live with the shield that I got. Now I'm not counting the vents because my mind is occupied on actually flying the ship and seeing if I can get as many as I can for my little experiment here. And I'm not flying particularly well, I'm also talking when I'm flying. But I think I will manage to get about 6 or so. No, I missed that one. That one did not go through. So again, I am above 20%, which means everything is firing at me. But anyway, the core is now coming out. So now I have my missile racks. Again, I want to see if the multi-cannon thingy works for the sake of my little test. Oh, it's hitting it, but it's not doing damage, so I think it's confirmed that corrosive does not work. We'll put some damage on it, because why not? I mean, you get ship kits and credit for hitting these things, so might as well. I'm sure we'll be back here at some point, but... And now, again, I was not paying attention, and my heat is through the roof. Now, if I did enough damage, which I may or may not have done solo, again, I wasn't particularly paying attention, Il Taurus, which in this case, apparently I did. So the area immediately above the core is safe. So where I am right now, you can just sit and hang out here, and you're not going to get damage. Like the Taurus actually goes in a donut kind of shape. So you can just hang out here, and you're going to be okay. And then typically you'll kind of want to move back onto the top side, as you call it, of the Titan, back where the vents are. Now, at this point, if you don't have any scouts or anything locked onto you, you can get away without being hit. But more often than not, you do have a scout or something locked onto you. And the challenge with having a scout or glade or other hostile locked onto you is that turrets can then fire upon you even if you're cold, which means you take damage. But in this case, I managed to take damage on my own by ramming into the Titan itself. Now let's see if I can show you what I wanted to show you earlier, which is what I call a running start on the vent bombing round. I'll do it on the other direction because, I don't know, it kind of like works better for me if I do it counterclockwise for some reason. Now, off we go. Now my heatsinks are out of ammo, and I actually want my heatsinks for the sake of this little experiment. Where are they here? I again went above 20% because I was boosting, and now everybody's shooting at me. My synthesis was interrupted by taking damage, so I'll have to restart it. Alright, cool. Alright, I hear the vents. I still don't have my heat sinks, so they take 20 seconds to synthesize, but they should be available soon. Switch to torpedoes, and I start boosting now. There we go. Now this is a running start. See, first one I got, and I'm already kind of running off to the next one. For whatever reason, my sinks did not synthesize, probably because I took some kind of damage, so people are going to start shooting at me, but again, I'm going on this demo run, so I just want to see how fast I can go, and I don't particularly care about the damage I'm taking. Normally I would not do this. I also plan to self-destruct after this is done, for the sake of showing, like, this, and then heading back to my barrier. Again, I don't know why I find it better to be counterclockwise, but I do. Now, I did not manage to do it the flight pattern I would have ideally wanted here. Is that 7 or is that 6? I don't know. I couldn't count. I was 7. See, I got 7, and I was almost almost there to get number 8 as well. So it's possible, like, especially if you have a slightly faster ship, or if you're flying better than I just did, it is possible to get all those just by yourself and have a single bomb, but it's not reliable, so I personally don't recommend it. Also, by the way, nanite torpedoes, you can fire another core, but they don't do any damage whatsoever. So don't waste your torpedoes against the core, because it's a waste of ammo. So you can, if you want, I mean, obviously it's more reliable to do this in a wing, and you will do more damage, and you can rely on self-protection. But especially with especially with Crate, that is not reliant on the concordant sequence effect to recharge its shields, it's quite possible to do this solo and do quite a bit of damage. Also, just by yourself. The one particular benefit of doing this solo, if you decide to do a solo, noting I don't recommend to do this solo, is that the instance will not bug out. So the bugs that happen are related to basically wings and netcode messing up among commanders. If you are solo, you will never have the core get stuck. You will never have the vents getting stuck to glue. And now here I'll show you an example. See, now I'm perfectly cold. However, that scout was locked onto me. So the turrets, somehow through some kind of neural network or neural link, still managed to see me. Let's see if I can actually synthesize those heat sinks. Alright, let's see if we can get... I don't know if we can get 8. We need to fly almost flawlessly to get 8 and keep boosting. It's a bit of a challenge. I got my heat sinks back, so I'm happy. I want to get a long start. I don't hear the sound of the vents going open yet. Like, if you want to optimize the run, you want to fly through these gullies, up and down these gullies, essentially, and then turn to the right, bomb, and then turn left as you go up the next gully. That's what I've personally found to be the kind of optimal path. It's not particularly easy, as you can see the gully is kind of tight here. But, again, optimal things aren't always easy. So, for example, here I drifted outwards, and I didn't want to kind of make that tight maneuver to go to the other side. Alright, back on torpedoes now. Recharging my assist while I'm at it. I mean, in general, during a bombing run, I want to be on 042 so that I have maximum velocity and agility. But this does make your shields a lot weaker, so you have to be careful about the damage that you may be taking. Again, as you can see, I'm at 17% heat, even though my shields are charging. So, am I hearing the vents? Am I hearing voices? Yeah, I'm hearing the vents. The vents will open in, I don't know, 10 seconds or so. Again, put some charge in my shields. I may actually want to fly 141 so my shield charge. Alright, so this is not ideal because I was just in the wrong spot to kind of like get the first of the vents in place, so I kind of like was, but we'll see if it works. 2. This time I'm going to count. 3. 4. 5. 6. Come on, 2 more. 7. Come on, get it. 7. 7 out of 10. The courier can do 8. The courier can do 8 using this kind of like fight pattern without too much of a fuss. The Mamba, it's hard to do 8. I might be able to if I keep trying for a bit, but it's not easy. Alright. Again, I'm cooling off with my beam and missiles away. And as you can see, you do take phasing damage, but not a lot. So now I'm like a 97% hull, even though I've recharged my shield like 5 times. This is kind of going down again. So again, let's go back to our safe spot. We'll recharge our shields, and maybe actually, I forgot about the skunk tours. But actually, let's get the hell out of here. So this is a mistake in a way, because I didn't want to really boost. But I kind of wanted to get here fast, so it was a bit of a trade-off. So the boost attracted attention and aggro. So what that means is that when the Taurus finishes and I go back in this direction over here to go back top side, the turret's gonna shoot me, which means I'm gonna take damage. And my shields are already kind of weak, so I'm gonna put 4 pips in Sys to strengthen my shields, while I think that these things are gonna fire at me. I might be lucky that I somehow managed to not get a lock of the about 100 scouts that I have on scanner right now. And I managed somehow. But don't rely on this, it's not reliable, so... Don't do as I say, not as I do, as they say. So now I'm gonna move over here and again hide under the safe spot, which should be around here. There it is. This is a safe spot where I'm pointing right now. I also want to see if the scouts actually despawn while I'm hanging out here in the safe spot. And by the way, this might seem kind of like cramped, but it's actually pretty large of a spot. You can fit a T10, you can fit a cutter in here, and it'll work. Again, showing for those. Ooh, something went red. So this is an interceptor. I kind of picked up my tail. So I'm going to move a little bit further down here. See if I can get it to kind of lose its aggro. I think it will lose its aggro. It might be kind of seeing me from that angle. I don't know. It is seeing me, and it's also firing on me. So I'm going to move away a little. See if I can go further down. Alright. The vents are opening, but again, I'm not going to engage. Certainly not in these conditions. Let's see if you can hear the sound. Can you hear the wind-like sound that is getting stronger? Once you kind of hear it for a while, you get the sense of it. And the gurgling. And now we're open. There we go. Is a scout on me? Or is it going about its business? If it's going about its business in a very weird spot, I think it has somehow my tail. Oh, it's leaving. So it is going about its business. Alright. So, let's see. This is now orange alert, based on the color. Let's see if it goes back to yellowing and then green. When the Titan is in green alert, the turrets retract. So, but it's rare to see the Titan in green alert unless you're actively hiding like I am right now. My shield are recharging in the meanwhile, which is great because I'm in no hurry over here. Greetings, the inglorious G Reaper. Where is a good place to find the materials for synthesis for the stock of the weapons used on this build? Well, that I can show you relatively easily. First, I need to remember what the synthesis materials are. They are nanite munitions. These are the ones that you want to synthesize for missiles. Okay, this is green alert. Again, sorry. I'll just show you the color, and then we'll do what we were talking about already. So this is green alert. See, well, now red alert again because somebody started shooting me. I think the scout picked up my tail again. The scout that was going on about its business. Yeah. So again, the nanite munitions, which I've never had to synthesize once, use a combination of Guardian and target Titan materials. The Guardian power cell you get at the Guardian sites, the same ones where you farm for either module or weapon blueprints, like the ones that are needed for Guardian Gauss cannon. The heat exposure specimen and the phasing member residue, however, are materials that you get from the Titan itself. And I'll show you where to get them right now. My shield is reasonably charged, I think so. I got 58, it's good enough. I've got 56 now. Alright, so the heat exposure specimen is on the vents themselves. Now, if you use a pulse-wave xenoscanner, you'll be able to see them more easily. And actually, I have an interceptor on my tail, so I gotta get out of here for a moment. But I'll show you in a second, as soon as I shake these guys. And shaking interceptors in the gullies of a Titan is relatively easy. If you know the sort of like geography of it, Titan. Anyway, heat exposure specimens grow on the side of the thermal vents here. They're called heat vent abrasions. That one is on the inside, so we're not going to be able to poke it from the outside. But this one is on the outside, so we'll be able to poke it from here. So what you do is you use like a laser or really anything. The abrasion blaster is best. You get more materials if you use an abrasion blaster. But like thermal vent, beam or anything just works just fine. So this spits out heat exposure specimens, and those are one of the two materials that you need to synthesize that ammo. The other material, which is the phasing membrane residue, instead, unsurprisingly, is found right next to the phasing membranes. Now give me a second, again, to shake aggro and do some kind of like evasive maneuvers going in between these two things. And on the other side, and once we get to the other side of the Goit, I will show you where you get phasing membrane residues. So phasing membranes are in this kind of like arm, I call it the armpit of the Titan. So the armpit of the Titan has phasing membranes. The larger ones are where the glaives come out of, and the smaller ones are where the scouts come out from. So this is one of the larger ones, right here. Oops, I just about to bonk into it. And this is where glaives come out of. Next to it, all around here, see these orange thingies? These orange thingies are patches that, again, you can shoot. If you get close enough, you can target them. Launched the tube membrane residue. Same thing. You shoot it, you poke it with a laser, or an abrasion blaster will give you more materials if you use that, but all in all, it kind of works the same. And it spits out these phasing membrane residues. You can scoop them up with your cargo scoop. I'm full, so I don't need to do it, and it wouldn't work anyway because I'm full. Or you can use collector limpet to get them. If you want to get this en masse, I highly recommend using collector limpets because it's a lot faster. The third material of the Titan, which is not a cargo material, is these green things that grow all around the hull of a Titan, which are called coarse hull surfaces. Same exact thing. Use an abrasion blaster or a beam or whatever weapon really to kind of scrape them off, and it will spit up a bunch of materials that then you can, there you go, hardened surface fragments that you can then pick off. I have no idea what these are used for. I don't think they're used for anything in game. Eventually it might be used for something in game. These are the G1 materials. The phasing membrane residues are the G3 materials of a Titan, and the ones that grow off of the heat vent, see, G3, and the ones that grow off of the heat vents are the G5 materials. As we mentioned, the phasing membrane residues and the heat disclosure specimens are used in the synthesis of nanite torpedoes. However, since you already have 128 nanite torpedoes, I don't know how many more nanite torpedoes you might want. I think it's one of those syntheses that theoretically could have some kind of use, but in practice, now I'm super late to the start of this run. I also have an interceptor intercepting me, so like I'm gonna be a bit careful and pop a heatsink here. But I was like, for the sake of diversity, decided to go on a little bombing run here. Alright. Now, one thing I've learned, at least flying in a wing, is one of the things that seems to bug things out is when more than one person bombs the vents. And that happens when one person locks the vent and then fires a torpedo, then another person, while the torpedo has not yet hit the vent, also is locking the vent and fires another torpedo. Then two different torpedoes end up hitting the vent, the same vent, and that gets the game fiendishly confused. My hypothesis is that one of the things that contributes to actually bugging out the instance. So generally speaking, if you see somebody else is targeting a vent, don't fire a torpedo at it, because it might end up bugging up the game. At least until FDev figures out what is wrong with a script and fixes it. It's one of the things that could go wrong with a script, so it's one of the things that I would suggest you try to avoid doing. Alright, now we're getting back into Taurus territory, and I'm seeing if I can get myself right above, here we go, the core, which is a safe spot. And see, even if you're pretty low here, you're still in the safe spot, not affected by the Taurus. Boy, my shield have almost entirely regenerated. See, I don't know how we're going about this, but like, it's probably like 20 minutes that I'm here, like in all by myself while showing you things and bombing things. So once you get the gist of it and know what you're doing around the Titan, you can kind of, again, come here with a small wing, or come here and by yourself and try this out. Again, if you do this, I would not suggest coming in the shielded Mamba. I suggest coming with the bomber version of the Prey. Now, the scout detected me, and the scout detecting me resulted in all the turrets locking onto me and all the caustic missiles being in the air. Now, caustic missiles have an annoyingly long range after they were, quote, fixed, because they had a silly short range, so I decided to up the range, and as many things, they completely overdid it. So now the caustic missiles can chase you halfway around the galaxy. But it is what it is. So now let's get us back into one of these safe spots, and like that one over here. So go in from the other side. Like you can enter the safe spot. Ooh, whoa, 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 whoa. Oh, ouch. You can enter the safe spot also from this side. Right? From this side, you can actually go and straight point at the vent. It's actually my preferred way to enter the safe spot. And there we are. That is the vent that you can see from the safe spot. Alright, now looking at the chat. Scout drop most of the mats that you need to synthesize AX ammo. Yes, but not 9A torpedoes, right? 9A torpedoes are the one that I just talked about. If you get too close, they can still detect you. That is absolutely true. We know also exactly how close the Mamba would be detected at and the crate would be detected at, and I'm happy to tell you if you're interested, because we did that game science. Let's see. So the Mamba's minimum detected distance at minimum heat, so basically 0% heat, or at whatever, even in silent running. This distance applies even in silent running. The Mamba's distance is 534 meters, 534. And the Crate Mark II has a minimum detection distance of 504 meters. So the Crate can get a little, like 30 meters closer than the Mamba. But either of these ships, if you're closer than 500 meters, you will be detected even if you're cold. So to the point I think that Kelalatir was making in the chat, you're not really completely invisible. You're invisible so long as you're more than 500 meters away from hostiles. And let's see if there's other comments in the chat. Hiding from interceptors and firing Fargo missiles at you. So this happens in close proximity of a Titan. Like for whatever reason, Fargo turn to missiles while they're close to a Titan, even if the swarm is not otherwise agitated. It's annoying. It's one of the reasons why shields personally are good. I feel are good. They protect your Fargo strikes, or in particular, they protect your modules from Fargo strikes. Fargo strikes hurt. They hurt shields too, but they do an absolute number on modules if they hit an unshielded ship. So, and again, it's a bit of an additional layer of defense that can increase your survivability and endurance, if you will. Let's see, there's other questions in the chat while we're here in hiding spot. Oh, it went back to green. And again, if you heard the sound, you will have heard that the turret's retracted. Let's see if I can zoom out and show you. See the green veins on the vent. See the turrets being retracted. Well, I'll show you the turrets being retracted here. See, turrets went inside. And the underside of the Titan will also be all veined green. Whoops. Yeah, there you go, the green veins. So now it's in green alert. The good thing about in green alert is that patrols that have been issued while the Titan is in red alert will be recalled during when the Titan goes to green state. So instead of having to fight all the interceptors, especially if you're solo in a small wing, you just hide, wait until it goes to green state, and then those patrols will just leave. And you don't have to fight them, which is very convenient, if I may say. Question, did you receive your reward yet? So, interestingly, I got 8,000 arcs. I don't know why I got 8,000 arcs, because the maximum was supposed to be 3,600 arcs, but I did get 8,000 arcs for some reason. So I did get my arcs reward. As far as ship liveries and ship kits, I don't really know for which ships the ship kits are and what the liveries are, so I don't know whether I received them or not. If somebody here in the chat knows and can let me know which liveries and which kits the ships are even for, I'd be delighted to know. Pineapple heat sinks is like so much from this. I'm glad you are. Can you still make billions as parasites? Absolutely, yes. It's just slightly harder, so it's even more important to be with a well-coordinated, organized group, but the money has not changed. If you're in an organized group, you can still make north of 2 billion per hour as a parasite. And if you don't believe me, I can show you my carry balance. Can I? Where's my carry? Oh, that's like carry management. This is something I reached as a little personal goal of mine up here. This 100 with 9 zeros after doubling 37.5 billion in bonds that I had gotten from the Spire side experience. Let's see what else people are asking about. I talked about the beam laser. Nix, you're talking about the community. And you have Doozer rank, great. If I could do this with someone, yeah, well, again, people are always out in wings doing Spire sides, so doing now Titan runs. So I'm sure that whether it's in AXI or an XSF, you're gonna find groups of people that would be delighted to fly with you. Interdiction by scouts from Alex MG. Someone speculated about the Python having better sign running. Who knows, right? I mean, anybody can speculate whatever they want about the Python Mark II, but the reality is nobody knows. There was a honk, and soon after a tealish colored pulse will come out of the clouds. Yeah, that's the one. That's the Fargood pulse that we were talking about earlier. Yeah, I know. Not like 80 billion or 100 billion makes a difference, I think. I mean, when you keep your carry at 100 billion and then you carry 5.3 billion on pocket change, like just as spending money for rebuys and whatever things you may want to buy at Shindas or elsewhere, you kind of know that money is going to become meaningless in this game. And it's all about materials and the experience and what you kind of want to do. Alright, so we've been hidden for a while. Unless there's any other specific questions from the chat, let me see if I can do... Ouch. Let me see if I can bonk the Titan on the way out. Now the fun thing is, if you ram the Titan like I just did, it will go to red alert. So not only will you feel silly for having negative shields, but you will annoyingly make it spawn patrols and have come after you. Now what is interesting from this experience though is that I've learned that scouts actually do not despawn, so they do not count as patrols, the scouts that spawn from the pineapple down below. So that's interesting. Now, okay, these are... I only have one heatsink though. I should synthesize this. Fine, they're now opening, but I'm late to the game, so I'm not going to be able to get them all 8, so I don't know if I should even bother. What is that? Oh, that's an interceptor. That's too fast to be an Orpheus, that's a Cyclops. What else is interesting out here? I mean, you can see more on the Titan if you have a pulse wave Xeno scanner, which I don't right now because this is not a ship that needs one. If you have a pulse wave Xeno scanner, you will find Fargoid Titan tissue samples on the tip of them all, like where these Basilisk actually got the attention of a Basilisk. Okay, now I want to sort of like boost and get out of the way because like a Basilisk can really ruin your day. Especially since I gave up my only big HRP to carry a fuel scoop on this ship. That's gonna launch the scouts from this. That's the scout phasing member. That's where it launches scouts, obviously, as you can tell. And again, if you need to shake aggro from an interceptor, you can go to a safe spot if you're above them all, or if you're not above them all, like right now, you can actually flip between the downside and the top side of them all. And that usually manages to shake aggro reasonably well. Oh, I think it got a little warm, so I got some attention here. But fortunately, those turrets are also incredibly imprecise. Hence our opening again. There's caustic missiles in the air heading towards me. There's also like a patrol now right below me, which I'm trying to avoid. See if I can dodge the missiles, but no, I can't, so I'm gonna tank them. Again, the caustic they apply is very small, so it's not particularly threatening, but it can be annoying. See if I can get them crash into their own mothership. Yes, I got at least a few. There you go. So again, a maneuver if you're trying to evade those missiles. They chase you for a long time, but they're kind of dumb, and they'll crash into a Titan if you kind of like evade and go around a corner, as you can see. Alright, vents are now closed. Vents stay open for exactly 40 seconds, for what it's worth. And by the way, while you're at it, if you're out far from a Titan and you need to cool off, you can actually cool off of a mine. But you have to be a bit careful because, again, they damage you also from a distance, like what just happened now. But in a pinch, if you're careful, it can work. Alright. Now they just closed, so it's gonna be a minute or so before the vents open again. I think I was noticing it. I think you can actually hit the top of the vent without aggroing the Titan. But don't take me at my word for this one, because it's not something I have extensively tested. Now what I want to do is I want to get a running start so that I hit this one here, and then I'm straight going in this direction towards up the gully there, so that I can have the next vent up to my right. Alright, the sound is coming, so I'm gonna get going. There we go. Sync, boost. And that's one. Boost again. Alright, turn up here. Sync again. Boost again. I'm not keeping count. I hope you guys are. Right, boost again. Sync. Fire again. Boost again. Alright, boost again. Lock. Ah! Almost! I hit it, but it didn't quite blow. I hit it, but it didn't quite blow. I was like 2 seconds away from actually getting an 8th run on the Mamba, which I personally have never done. So, interesting little experiment. And now we just beam and bomb the core. Missiles are gonna reload, so I'm not gonna do like a full nominal damage, but I've done some. Actually, I don't even know what damage resistance is on this droid right now. Alright, now this is an annoying proposition because I need to get away from the Taurus, but I just got the attention of an interceptor. And I'm trying to move myself. Oof. I think I managed. Yeah, I managed. Barely managed. But I have an interceptor on me, which means I'm trying to go full speed reverse and to the right to avoid it. I think I managed. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. So what did I want to do? Oh yeah, I wanted to check the damage resistance of this thing and see if my little experiments right here are doing like even a 1% damage. So this is maximum damage resistance. So this probably has like 95% plus damage resistance. So you can bomb it all day long. I'm certainly not going to make a dent on my own. But again, for the sake of experimentation and showing you how some of these things work, it kind of like serve its purpose. Again, you can beam and destroy these turrets. Missiles, if you want to waste missiles on them, are incredibly effective, as you can see. But candidly, it's not worth it to waste ammo on these things. You're going to save your ammo for a core. Boom. Again, this one's down, just to see how quickly it responds. I'll just hang out in here. That thing closes, and then just a very short while later, it kind of reopens. Stick around here, assuming the interceptor doesn't kind of like come Too close. So far, it's good. Yeah, and Ninja, I heard that they receive ship kit, paint job, but for which ship? that's the question. Um, so this is a persistent object, like a station where everybody's damage is pooled. Which is a persistent thing. Yeah, it's a persistent object, so the damage is pooled on that question. Every instance damage is counted independently and summed. Anyhow, if there are additional questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, I think we covered everything I wanted to cover in this little example. In particular, we verified that corrosive does not work, which saddens me deeply. And now this is a glaive on my tail. Glaives are the most annoying because they are very fast, they're very difficult to shake. Still quite possible, but you gotta fly a bit better and do a bit more crazy things like the ones I'm doing, like here, like going through the sides of them all to effectively shake a grave. And it's possible, but again, it's risky. Especially this is a maneuver that generally shakes them easily because they cannot follow you if you fly like this. Alright, we've now shaken the glaive. There's an interceptor there, which we're trying to steer clear of, which we did not manage to steer clear of, so again, try and stay cold. Get out of its way. I think the glaive is trying to pick up my tail as well. And here we are. Again, with 100% shields and 94% hull, considering we have even less hull than normal because we have a fuel scoop on. I think we've accomplished our mission here to try out this corrosive, which sadly doesn't work. And with that, we're gonna fast travel back to our carrier, so I run to disable our shields, and bonk, bonk, and one more bonk, and back we go to our carrier, bonk. Hopefully it puts me back in my carrier. I have no idea where it's gonna put me back. I don't know what the rules are. I think if there's no dockable place in system, it throws you back to the last place you docked. Is that how it works in Odyssey? Although I found, yes, that's exactly how it works. So back at my carrier I am, which saves me 4 jumps, which is nice. Then Steve McNair was saying the influence the Titan has on surrounding systems affects the damage resistance. Oh yeah, 100%. Like the damage resistance is directly correlated to how many occupied invasion systems exist around Titan, which is why Taranis had the lowest and was moderate to start with. Didn't bother going. Thanks for the clarification. I'll check out the site. With that, happy to answer our couple of questions at the end of the stream. Otherwise, I think we're approaching the end of our little experiment while I drop the modules that I had, which clearly don't work, so saddens me deeply. I had this idea, experimentals are gonna use Castec, it would be such a game changer, but no. Too good to be true. Too good to be true. There we are. And the guns, right? Yeah. This was the concordant beam, the concordant pulse lasers. This is concordant, yes. Can a relatively new player participate in this, or is it just expensive, grinded stuff? I want to say you can participate in this, especially now that they unlocked the modules today. The caustic sync launcher and the fire repulse neutralizer, and anybody can buy them just for credits at a Fireblade megaship. Basically, you can buy it for a ship just for credits. Let's assume for a moment that we set engineering aside. Then you fly yourself to a rescue megaship. You can buy enhanced anti-xeno missile racks. You can buy the nanite torpedoes. You can buy Fargoid post neutralizers and the caustic sink launchers just for credits. So more practically no ground involved in any of that. Then the question is, how far are you going to get with zero engineering whatsoever? And that one is a bit more challenging, I want to say. Thruster engineering, power plant engineering, and to a degree power distributor engineering are very important. Like, slow ships tend to be dead ships in Titan space, so you really want mobility and velocity that engineered thrusters give you. So at least you would want to get thrusters G3, I want to say, which is not an unholy grind, I think. Also engineering-wise, I don't remember if Farseer does G3 drives, but I think there's some engineering, either with Marco Quent or the Dweller or one of the early on engineering that gives you the ability to engineer drives at least to G3. That I would highly recommend. And then with a G3 drive ship, I mean, are you going to be doing what I was doing in this video, which is, navigating the Titan and getting 7, maybe even 8 vents on your own, and then going and bombing it and dodging damage and that? No, you're not going to be doing this. However, you can be very effective in a wing and still help a lot and not feel useless, put it this way. So on the Titan to target next, someone asked that question at the beginning of the stream. There's other people who are far more experienced than I am as far as war targets are concerned, that are having some very intelligent discussions about which Titan to hit next. I'm a simple monkey. I see targets, I shoot, and I kill them, and I'm reasonably good at it, I think. As far as figuring out where to go to kill them and shoot them, there are far more sophisticated people that know far better than I how the war mechanics work. I really don't know much about the actual macroscopic strategic side of the war. Some people are saying Oya, some people are saying Lei Gong. I'll let them figure it out, but I'm pretty sure we'll know in 24 to 48 hours what the community thinks should be the next target. And then the reality is, I think, whatever the Anti-Xeno initiative decides to pick as the next target will be what the community eventually rallies around, just by the law of large numbers, right? XI is going to have the most people, and they're going to make the most progress, and then everybody's going to jump on that bandwagon. And that's what's going to be the next target. So, and Alex is right, having also a thermal vent beam, which I don't know where you get. Which engineer do you get beams? Is it the Dweller does beams? I know he does power distributors. I don't remember if he does beam lasers to G1 or G3. I know Brute Tarquin does them, but that's G5, and that's a kind of like a late game engineer. But I do know that there's some engineer that does lasers at lower grades of refinement that is a lot earlier in the overall grind. With that, commanders, I hope you find this entertaining and that it's been somewhat useful. Thank you for flying along with me in my little experiment to see if corrosive damage works on thermal cores. As it turns out, it doesn't, but it was worth a shot of trying, and we've learned something, and we did some kind of fun flying and experimentation. So glory to mankind, and I'm sure I'll see you tomorrow for some fireworks at the detonation of Taranis.